The cold vastness of space had always been the Empire's domain. For centuries, it had stretched its tendrils across the galaxy, subjugating planets and species with merciless efficiency. Earth, once a thriving cradle of human civilization, had become just another conquered world. Its people, enslaved and oppressed, lived under the shadow of an empire that viewed them as little more than insects to be crushed beneath a boot. Yet, despite the Empire's dominance, there was an undying ember of defiance on Earth. In the depths of ruined cities and beneath the rubble of fallen nations, resistance movements were stirring. These were not the grand armies of ancient times, but ordinary people, scientists, engineers, soldiers, and civilians, working in the shadows, fighting with everything they had to reclaim their world. The Empire's oppression had driven them to desperation, but it also ignited a fire of rebellion that no empire could ever truly extinguish. Among the resistance's leaders was Captain Elijah Grant, a man who had once served in the Empire's military before seeing the brutal truth of their cruelty. Disillusioned and betrayed by the very system he had sworn to uphold, Grant had defected, taking with him critical intelligence on the Empire's plans. He was not the only one. Countless soldiers and officers, like Ashatalon, had abandoned their posts, and their knowledge of the Empire's inner workings became invaluable to the resistance. As the rebellion began to organize, their greatest asset was an unlikely discovery, a relic of a forgotten past. Beneath the Earth's surface, buried deep within the ruins of an ancient city, a team of resistance scientists uncovered a hidden artifact. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. The artifact was sleek and alien in design, pulsating with an energy that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of the planet itself. Dr. Mira Kavanagh, a brilliant astrophysicist, was the first to decipher its strange symbols. She quickly realized that the artifact was more than just an ancient relic. It was a key, one that led to something much more powerful, something that could change the tide of the war. But the discovery was not without its dangers. As Dr. Kavanagh studied the artifact, strange signals began to emanate from it, reaching out into the cosmos. The Empire's intelligence network, ever watchful, detected the anomaly. Within days, an elite Imperial strike force was dispatched to Earth, tasked with eradicating the resistance and securing the artifact. It was a calculated move, wipe out the rebellion before it could gain any real traction. The Empire's fleet, vast and intimidating, began its slow approach toward Earth. Its commanders, confident in their superiority, underestimated the resolve of the human spirit. They believed Earth's resistance was nothing more than a few scattered pockets of insurgents, insignificant in the grand scale of the Empire's power. What they didn't know was that the discovery of the artifact had united the resistance in a way they never anticipated. The humans were no longer fighting for survival alone, they were fighting for something greater. The rebellion's ranks swelled as word of the artifact spread. Other oppressed worlds, long subjugated by the Empire, began sending aid, small ships carrying refugees, resources, and knowledge. Earth's rebellion was no longer an isolated movement, it was the spark of something much larger. Captain Grant stood before his fellow leaders in the war room of an underground resistance base, the holographic map of the galaxy flickering in front of them. "This is it," he said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "The Empire is coming. We don't have the luxury of time. We strike now, or we risk losing everything we've worked for." Dr. Kavanagh, who had been poring over the data from the artifact, looked up, her face pale. "There's more to this artifact than we realized. It's not just a weapon, it's a ship. A warship hidden beneath the surface of the Earth." Grant's eyes widened. "A ship?" "Yes," she confirmed, her voice filled with awe. "An ancient one. It could be our key to defeating the Empire, but we'll need to unlock its full potential first, and we'll need to get to it before they do." The room fell silent as the gravity of the situation set in. The fate of the rebellion, and perhaps the galaxy, rested on their ability to harness this mysterious power before the Empire could crush them. Outside, the distant rumble of the Earth's surface shook as the Empire's fleet drew nearer. The battle for Earth had begun. The sky above Earth's capital was a dull shade of gray, the clouds swirling ominously as if nature itself sensed the impending storm. Captain Elijah Grant stood on the rooftop of a crumbling skyscraper, his eyes fixed on the horizon. The faint hum of distant Imperial ships was becoming a constant presence, as if the Empire's fleet was slowly encircling the planet, ready to strike. But it was the slight tremor in the ground beneath him that made him clench his fists in determination. The Resistance had no intention of bowing down. "We're ready, Captain," Asha Talon's voice interrupted his thoughts. The former Imperial officer had proven herself time and time again since defecting, quickly becoming one of the most trusted leaders in the rebellion. Her sharp eyes scanned the cityscape, ever watchful. "The first strike team is in position. We can hit their communications relay now and cripple their ability to coordinate an assault." Grant nodded. "Let's do it. This is our chance to show the galaxy that Earth isn't a world to be forgotten or crushed. We fight with everything we have." The Resistance had spent months building its strength. Small, calculated raids against Imperial supply lines, stealing weapons, gathering intel. But this was different. This would be the first real blow to the Empire's hold on Earth. If they were successful, it would send a clear message that humanity wasn't just resisting, it was fighting back. The attack was swift, a blend of precision and audacity. The strike team infiltrated the Imperial Communications Tower, located at the heart of the capital city. Using the alien technology uncovered by Dr. Kavanaugh, they bypassed security measures and took control of the relay, sending a signal that disrupted Imperial transmissions across Earth. For hours, the Empire's fleet was left blind, unable to communicate with their forces on the ground. It was a small victory, but it was enough to shift the balance, even if only temporarily. As the strike team withdrew, the Resistance base erupted in celebration. They had proven something to themselves and to the galaxy. They were not powerless. However, the celebration was short-lived. Within hours, the Empire's retaliation was already on its way. Grant and Asha watched as the first waves of enemy soldiers descended from the sky, their dropships casting dark shadows over the city. The Empire was here, and they were not going to go down without a fight. "I told you they wouldn't go quietly," Asha said, her voice tight. "But we knew this was coming. We can't back down now." Grant's jaw tightened as he surveyed the battlefield. The Empire's response was swift and merciless. Hundreds of Imperial troops, equipped with advanced armor and weaponry, stormed the streets, clearing buildings, sweeping for any Resistance fighters. It was a show of force, a message that no act of rebellion would go unpunished. But Earth's resistance wasn't retreating, it was evolving. At the heart of the rebellion's underground base, Dr. Kavanaugh was working furiously, her mind racing. The alien warship, still dormant in its hidden chamber beneath the Earth, could be their trump card, but they weren't yet ready to activate it. She had been experimenting with the artifact's technology for weeks, learning how to interface with it, how to unlock its dormant systems. What she had discovered so far had been nothing short of extraordinary. The warship was capable of altering gravitational fields, manipulating energy in ways no human-made weapon could even dream of. But there was one catch: it required immense power to activate. Power that Earth's infrastructure wasn't capable of generating on its own. "We need more time," Dr. Kavanaugh muttered to herself, sweat beading on her forehead as she worked. "If we can just figure out how to harness the planet's core energy, we might be able to make it work." Time, however, was a luxury they didn't have. Back in the city, Grant and Asha were organizing their forces for a counterattack. "We need to hit them hard," Grant said, his voice calm but filled with urgency. "We can't let them establish a foothold. If they take the capital, it's over." Asha's eyes flicked over to the screen, showing a live feed of the Imperial forces advancing. She clenched her fists. Then we fight. No more waiting. No more hiding. The rebels set their plan in motion, small, lightning-fast strikes against Imperial checkpoints, utilizing the chaos to take out supply depots and sabotage key targets. It was a dangerous gamble, but it worked. The Empire's forces, though vast and technologically superior, were not prepared for the relentless, unpredictable tactics of the human resistance. Meanwhile, deep underground, Dr. Kavanaugh made a breakthrough. She had found a way to harness Earth's natural electromagnetic fields, tapping into the planet's core energy to power the alien warship. It wasn't ready yet, but it was closer than she had ever hoped. As the human resistance rallied under Grant's leadership and Dr. Kavanaugh's ingenuity, the Empire found itself facing an enemy that refused to be broken. Humanity, once thought weak and insignificant, had now become the spark of a rebellion that could change the fate of the galaxy forever. The tide was turning, and the Empire's overconfidence would soon prove to be their greatest mistake. The battle for Earth's capital raged on, an unrelenting storm of chaos and destruction. The Imperial forces, advanced and disciplined, pushed through the streets with terrifying precision, leaving burning wreckage in their wake. Yet for every step they took, the resistance struck back with the ferocity of a species fighting for its survival. Buildings exploded, smoke filled the sky, and the air was thick with the acrid scent of burning metal and shattered dreams. The rebels were outnumbered, but they had one advantage: their sheer will to survive. In a hidden underground chamber beneath the city, Dr. Mira Kavanaugh worked tirelessly, her hands shaking as she interfaced with the ancient alien artifact. The warship, buried deep in the earth, had been dormant for millennia, its systems long forgotten by any civilization that had come before. But now, as Dr. Kavanaugh poured all her expertise into the alien technology, the dormant power of the ship began to stir. On a monitor nearby, a holographic map of the galaxy flickered to life. The ship's systems were coming online, one by one. Power surged through the core of the warship, and slowly its shape began to emerge, first as a faint outline, then more defined as energy poured into its massive frame. It was unlike anything the Empire or even the Resistance had ever seen, sleek, angular, and terrifyingly beautiful. The pride of Earth had awakened. "What's happening?" Asha Talon's voice crackled through the comms as she and Captain Grant made their way to the chamber. "The ship's systems are online," Dr. Kavanaugh said, her voice breathless with excitement. "It's alive." Captain Grant stood silent for a moment, his heart racing as he looked at the warship. "We've unlocked its potential, but can we control it?" Dr. Kavanaugh turned to face him, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and fear. "That's the question, isn't it? The ship is vast, almost sentient. It's like it's waiting for us to command it, but there's something else. A deeper intelligence embedded in its systems. I've never seen anything like it." The alien technology hummed with energy, the air thick with the hum of power, as if the very walls of the underground chamber were alive. The ship was fully activated, and its AA, a mysterious and ancient entity, was now interfacing with humanity in ways that couldn't yet be fully understood. The Resistance's next move was now entirely dependent on harnessing this unknown power. "We don't have time to figure out every nuance of it," Grant said, his voice filled with urgency. "The Empire won't wait for us to decode ancient technology. We need this warship now." Asha's eyes flicked to the radar, where a blip marked the rapidly advancing Imperial fleet. "They're coming. They know we found something, probably already sending their most elite forces to Earth." Dr. Kavanaugh nodded, her fingers flying over the ship's console. "I'm initiating the first test sequence. It's risky, but it might just be enough to give us the edge." With a single command, the warship's engines roared to life. The ground beneath them trembled as if the very Earth itself was responding to the warship's awakening. The massive ship began to rise from the Earth's core, its sleek hull cutting through layers of rock and rubble. It surged upwards, emerging into the atmosphere with a terrifying grace, like a mythical creature escaping from its long-forgotten tomb. From space, the Pride of Earth was a sight to behold, a shimmering beacon of humanity's newfound hope, hovering above the war-torn city below. The air crackled with energy as it locked onto the Imperial fleet, now entering Earth's atmosphere. "Let's see if this ship can live up to its name," Grant said, his eyes fixed on the warship as it hovered above them, awaiting its command. Asha stepped forward. "We've got one shot at this. If we don't stop them now, they'll overrun the planet." Dr. Kavanaugh's fingers hovered over the console, then slammed down onto the controls. A pulse of energy shot out from the warship, followed by a shockwave that rippled through the atmosphere. The energy hit the Imperial fleet with the force of 1,000 thunderclaps. Imperial ships were torn apart by the sheer power of the blast, their shields failing under the immense gravitational force. The Empire's fleet was reeling, caught off guard by the unexpected attack. But the devastation didn't stop there. The Pride of Earth unleashed a devastating barrage, its weapons capable of warping space itself. Imperial ships twisted in midair, their hulls buckling and collapsing as the ship's gravitational fields tore them apart. The Pride of Earth was no longer just a symbol of resistance. It was a force of nature, one that had the potential to reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. From the ground, Grant and Asha watched in awe as the Empire's fleet was scattered across the sky, their forces in disarray. The first test had been a success, but it was only the beginning. "Now we fight," Grant said, his voice filled with a new sense of purpose. The warship, now fully operational, was Earth's answer to the Empire's tyranny. With its power at their fingertips, humanity's rebellion was no longer a fight for survival. It was a fight for the future of the galaxy. The devastation caused by the Pride of Earth's first attack was beyond anything the Resistance had hoped for. The Imperial fleet, a massive armada of warships that had once seemed invincible, was now in disarray. Debris from the destroyed ships rained down from the sky like a storm of metal and fire, the fires of war visible from miles away. The Pride of Earth, hovering high above the planet's surface, remained an awe-inspiring symbol of humanity's newfound power. Yet, despite the overwhelming success of the attack, Captain Grant knew the victory was fleeting. The Empire was not one to be easily deterred. They had witnessed a threat unlike anything they had encountered before, and they would respond in kind. "They'll regroup," Asha Talon said, her voice grim as she watched the carnage unfold on the monitors. "The Empire won't make the same mistake twice. They'll send in reinforcements, and they'll come with everything they've got." Grant clenched his jaw, his eyes locked on the shattered remnants of the Imperial fleet. "Then we prepare for them. The warship's not invincible. We need to make sure we've got enough firepower to hold them off when they come." In the war room of the underground resistance base, the mood was somber. The initial success had injected the rebels with a renewed sense of hope, but the reality of their situation was still daunting. The Empire had vast resources at its disposal, an entire galaxy to command, and no amount of technological advantage could guarantee victory against such overwhelming force. "We have to move quickly," Dr. Kavanaugh said, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and excitement. "The Pride of Earth is powerful, but it's not invulnerable. We've only unlocked a fraction of its potential. There's more, much more hidden within it, but we need time to figure it out. Time we don't have." Grant nodded. "Then we take the fight to them. We'll use the ship's power to disrupt their fleet even more, force them to spread out. While they're distracted, we'll hit their supply lines, their bases of operation. We cripple their logistics and supply chains, and that gives us a chance to keep them from overwhelming us." Asha stepped forward. "We can also call in reinforcements. Other planets have been waiting for a signal to join the fight. Earth's rebellion is inspiring. but we need to keep the Empire focused on us, not on gathering more support. Grant turned to Dr. Kavanaugh. How much more power can we draw from the warship? Not much, she said, a frown creasing her brow. We're tapping into Earth's core energy, but that's not a sustainable solution for long. We're using up reserves faster than we can replenish them, and if we continue pushing it too hard, we risk destabilizing the energy core. It could cause catastrophic damage. Grant's heart sank. They had been fortunate, but they could not rely on the warship's power forever. Then we need to make our moves count, he said. We hit them hard, fast, and keep them guessing. Let's make them regret underestimating humanity. Back in the skies above Earth, the Empire's remaining fleet had reorganized. The survivors, though battered and broken, were not without strength. The Imperial commanders, furious at the loss of so many ships, knew that their next move had to be decisive. They could no longer afford to toy with humanity. They had to end the rebellion quickly before it spread across the galaxy. Admiral Varric, the commander of the Imperial fleet, stood at the helm of his flagship, his face a mask of fury. His fleet had been decimated, but he had learned a valuable lesson: never underestimate a desperate species. Earth's rebellion was not just a nuisance, it was a threat that could not be ignored. Prepare the assault, Varric commanded, his voice cold and calculating. We'll begin by wiping out the Resistance's stronghold and taking out the warship. If they want to fight, we'll give them one. A series of calculated orders rippled through the Imperial command deck, and soon the fleet was prepared to launch a full-scale assault. Ships massed in orbit, readying their weapons. Varric's plan was simple: overwhelm Earth's defenses with sheer firepower, and then deal with the pride of Earth once and for all. In response, Captain Grant knew that time was running out. His fingers tapped the console in front of him, calculating the Resistance's next move. They could not afford to wait for the Empire to strike. The warship was their greatest asset, but it was also the most obvious target. The Empire would surely focus its efforts on neutralizing it first. We have to keep them off balance, Grant said, voice low but intense. Let's hit their fleet before they can organize. Give them one last taste of what it means to face humanity's resolve. As the Resistance prepared for their next assault, the Pride of Earth stood as a looming symbol of their defiance. The warship, still drawing on Earth's energy, was ready to deliver another blow. But this time, the battle would be different. The Empire was no longer blind to the threat they faced, and they would bring everything they had to bear against Earth's rebellion. The stage was set for the next confrontation, a fight that would not only decide the fate of Earth, but the future of the entire galaxy. The true war had just begun. The countdown to the next battle had begun. The Empire, shaken but not broken, had gathered its forces and was preparing to strike back with unrelenting force. Earth's rebellion had earned the galaxy's respect, but it had also earned the Empire's wrath. In the Imperial fleet's command center, Admiral Varric was coldly calculating his next move. "We've underestimated them," he muttered, his fingers clenching around the armrest of his chair. The remnants of his fleet, battered from the earlier attack, had regrouped, reinforced with fresh warships. But now we deal with the threat before it grows any larger. The Empire's strategy was simple: annihilate Earth's resistance in one swift blow, neutralize the Pride of Earth, and leave the planet in ruins as a warning to the rest of the galaxy. But Varric knew that this time, their enemy would not be so easily crushed. Back on Earth, the Resistance had prepared for what they knew would be the decisive battle. The Pride of Earth stood as a monumental symbol of humanity's defiance, its sleek, alien design now fully operational and ready for combat. But Grant and his allies knew that the ship could not fight the entire Imperial fleet alone. They needed to strike hard and fast before the Empire could mobilize its forces. "We're running out of time," Ashtalon said, standing beside Captain Grant in the war room. The holographic map of the Earth, and its surrounding space displayed the Imperial fleet's movements. They're massing in orbit. They'll be here within hours. Grant turned toward Dr. Kavanaugh, who was hunched over the warship's control console, her face lit by the glow of the screens in front of her. "What's the status on the ship?" "It's ready," she said, her voice laced with exhaustion. "We've unlocked more of its systems. The gravitational weaponry is functional, and we've been able to access its cloaking technology. But we can't keep pushing the ship to its limits. The core's power is still unstable. If we fire the weapon again, it could backfire." Grant didn't hesitate. "We don't have a choice. The Empire will come with everything they have. We need to hit them hard. If we can disrupt their fleet before they can focus all their fire on us, we might have a shot." Ash's eyes narrowed as she scanned the map. "We'll need to hit them at their core. The flagship is their strongest ship. Take that down, and the rest will crumble." "We'll split our forces," Grant decided. "Strike their smaller ships to keep them off balance, but focus everything we have on the flagship. We cripple their command, and their forces will fall apart. The Pride of Earth will be our spearhead." As the plan was set in motion, the Resistance began assembling its forces. A fleet of makeshift warships, salvaged from the wreckage of past Imperial assaults and retrofitted with alien tech from the warship, formed up around Earth's orbit. They were a ragtag group of rebels, but they were united by a singular purpose: to fight for their freedom, for their planet. Dr. Kavanaugh, despite her doubts about the warship's stability, gave the final command to launch. The Pride of Earth shot into the atmosphere like a streak of light, cutting through the clouds and heading toward the heart of the Imperial fleet. The battle that unfolded above Earth was a brutal clash of technological might and raw determination. Imperial warships, massive and powerful, descended in a tight formation, their cannons ready to unleash destruction. The rebellion's forces, though fewer in number, fought with a ferocity the Empire had never expected. The Pride of Earth appeared from the cloak of space, its shape barely visible at first, a ghost of metal and energy. Then, with a flash of blinding light, the ship fired a concentrated pulse of gravitational energy, tearing through the closest Imperial ships like paper. They were nothing more than dust, caught in the wake of the ship's power. The explosion of the ship sent shockwaves through the Imperial fleet, forcing them to scatter in disarray. For a moment, the rebellion had the upper hand. The Empire's fleet was in turmoil, their ships scrambling to regroup. The Pride of Earth continued its assault, cloaking and decloaking in quick succession, striking at the heart of the Empire's forces. It was a game of cat and mouse, humanity's most advanced weapon against the might of the Empire's elite fleet. But the Empire was not easily broken. Admiral Varric watched from the bridge of his flagship, his cold eyes narrowing as he observed the destruction unfolding before him. "They fight like animals," he said, his voice laced with disdain. "But they are still nothing more than ants beneath the boot of the Empire. We will crush them." Varric's flagship, Desolator, broke through the chaos and fired a volley of missiles directly at the Pride of Earth. The shockwaves from the explosion rattled the ship, sending alarms blaring through the command center. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the Empire's forces had struck the killing blow. Grant's heart skipped a beat as he watched the Pride of Earth systems flicker. "Status," he barked into the comms. "We're still here." Dr. Kavanaugh's voice came through, strained but firm. "It's damaged, but it's holding together. We're not out yet." "Keep pushing," Grant said, his voice a low growl. "We will not let them win." With one last surge of power, the Pride of Earth unleashed its full might, the gravitational weapon firing once more. This time, the blast was so powerful that it completely obliterated the Desolator in a single shot, sending its massive hull spinning into the void. The explosion sent ripples through the Imperial fleet, and for the first time, Admiral Varric felt the fear of defeat. But he would not relent. The war was far from over, and the Empire would never stop until Earth was crushed beneath its heel. the true test was only beginning. The explosion of the Desolator sent shockwaves across the Imperial fleet, a symbol of humanity's newfound strength. The massive flagship, once the most feared vessel in the galaxy, was now nothing more than a burning husk adrift in space. The Pride of Earth had struck a blow that would echo across the galaxy. The remaining Imperial ships, disoriented and thrown into chaos, began to retreat, scrambling to regroup and reassess their strategy. But the Resistance wasn't content with a single victory. This was their moment, their one chance to strike at the heart of the Empire and turn the tide of the war forever. "Keep up the pressure," Captain Grant barked over the comms, his voice laced with determination. "We can't let them recover. Follow the Pride of Earth. We hit them hard while they're still reeling." The fleet of rebel ships, though outnumbered and outclassed, surged forward, laser cannons firing in synchronized unison. The remnants of the Imperial fleet were already fractured, but the Resistance was determined to finish the job. Their ragtag fleet moved with precision, using the chaos to their advantage, striking at Imperial vessels with overwhelming force. Each attack was a testament to their resolve, their desperation to free their world from the grip of tyranny. On the Pride of Earth, Dr. Kavanaugh worked furiously to keep the warship systems operational. The damage from the last assault had been significant, and the ship's core was unstable, but she refused to let it fail now. This was humanity's greatest weapon, and it had to work. She monitored the damage with a cold, calculating focus, adjusting parameters and rerouting power where needed. "We're burning through reserves faster than we can keep up," she muttered to herself, her hands flying over the console. "If we don't end this soon, the ship will become a liability." "Dr. Kavanaugh," Asha Talon's voice came through the comms, sharp with urgency. "They're bringing in reinforcements. The Empire's not done yet. They are regrouping. We need more firepower to hold them off." Kavanaugh's eyes narrowed, sweat beading on her forehead. She glanced at the warship's control panel, considering the options. She knew the risks of pushing the ship to its limits, but there was no choice now. The Empire's reinforcements would arrive soon, and Earth couldn't afford to wait. "Give me one more shot," she said, her voice tight with resolve. "If we hit them with everything we've got now, we can break them. But after that, the Pride of Earth might be out of commission." Grant didn't hesitate. "Do it. We end this now." The warship's engines roared to life again, sending shockwaves through the surrounding space. Energy crackled along the hull as the Pride of Earth prepared to unleash its full might. The gravitational weapons, now fully powered, hummed with a terrifying intensity. "Firing in 3, 2, 1, Dr. Kavanaugh said, her fingers flying over the controls. The ship released a blast of concentrated gravitational energy, so powerful that it distorted the very fabric of space. The shockwave hit the incoming Imperial reinforcements with the force of a planet collapsing in on itself. Imperial warships were torn apart in an instant, spinning into oblivion, their shields shattered like glass. Those that remained in the blast radius were thrown out of position, their movements erratic, unable to regain control. Admiral Varric, watching from his new flagship, a sleek and brutal warship called Sovereign, gritted his teeth in rage. The Resistance had struck another devastating blow, and it was clear they weren't going to stop until they had nothing left to fight for. "Reinforcements are useless," Varric spat, his eyes burning with fury. "We've underestimated them for the last time. I'll crush their rebellion with my own hands." "Sir," one of his officers said, nervously glancing at the readings, "the Pride of Earth is still operational. We may be able to regroup and take another swing at it, but it'll take time." Varric slammed his fist onto the console. "Time? We don't have time. Deploy the Reapers, all of them. We'll send everything we have at them. If we must wipe Earth off the map, so be it. We will not lose to these humans." On Earth, the skies were a canvas of chaos. Explosions lit up the atmosphere as the remnants of the Empire's fleet scrambled to hold their ground. Rebel ships fought bravely, but they too were beginning to feel the strain. The Pride of Earth, still glowing with energy from the devastating blast, had done its job, but it was clear the warship could not keep up this intensity for much longer. "We've got them on the ropes," Asha said, her voice crackling over the comms. "But we can't keep this up for long. We need to make a final push." Grant nodded, his expression hardening. "Agreed. We can't give them a chance to regroup. This is our last shot. We need to take out their flagship and cripple their command structure for good." Dr. Kavanaugh's voice came through again, her tone filled with tension. "Captain, I've diverted everything we've got left into the warship's primary weapon systems. If we fire again, it will drain the core completely, and we'll be left with nothing." "Make it count," Grant said. "This ends now." With the final, desperate push, the Pride of Earth fired once more, unleashing a cataclysmic blast that tore through the heart of the Imperial fleet. The Sovereign, Admiral Varick's flagship, was struck first. The gravitational pulse ripped it apart, disintegrating its shields and hull in a fraction of a second. The command structure of the Empire began to unravel. But it wasn't over yet. Varick was still alive, and he would stop at nothing to see Earth crushed beneath the heel of the Empire. The true reckoning was still to come. The blast from the Pride of Earth was nothing short of catastrophic. Imperial ships were torn apart like fragile paper, their massive warships disintegrating under the force of the gravitational wave. The Sovereign, Admiral Varick's flagship, crumpled into a ball of twisted metal and molten debris. Its once proud silhouette vanished into the void, a final testament to the power of humanity's resolve. For a brief moment, it seemed as if the war might be over. Earth's rebellion had dealt a blow that the Empire could not survive. But in the heart of the galaxy, where the Empire's true power was rooted, Varick's final orders were being carried out. The loss of Sovereign was not the end of his crusade. The Emperor would not allow it, and Varick himself was far from defeated. As the Resistance's ships navigated through the wreckage of the Imperial fleet, Captain Grant's voice crackled over the comms. "Status report, everyone. Did we get them all?" Asha Talon's voice came through, strained but determined. "We've hit them hard, Captain, but they're not entirely gone. Varick's still out there, and they're calling in the Annihilators, the Empire's last line of defense. If they deploy those, we're done for." Grant's heart sank. The Annihilators were elite war machines, a series of heavily armored, near-invincible battleships built to wipe out entire planets. They had been kept hidden, a final weapon in case the Empire ever faced true resistance. The thought of facing even one of them was enough to freeze the blood of any commander, let alone an entire fleet of them. "We don't have much time," Grant said, his voice low but unwavering. "We've got to take the fight to them before they deploy those ships. Asha, how long do we have?" "I'm estimating, maybe an hour." "Less," Asha replied. "Once they're in range, we won't stand a chance." Grant looked to Dr. Kavanaugh, who was still working furiously at the Pride of Earth's control panels. "How's the ship? Can we push it to full power again?" Kavanaugh didn't look up from the screens. "We're running on fumes, Captain. The core's almost out of power, and if we overcharge it again, the ship will destabilize." But she paused, eyes flicking to a readout on her console. "I think we might have one last shot. The core's not dead yet. If we can reroute the remaining energy into the warship systems and push it to maximum output, we can fire the weapon again." "Do it," Grant interrupted. "Whatever it takes. We have to hit them before they bring those annihilators in." Dr. Kavanaugh's hands flew over the console, her face illuminated by the glow of the ship's systems. Asha and the rest of the crew braced themselves, knowing the risks. The Pride of Earth had become their last, best hope, a weapon of unprecedented power, but one that was rapidly approaching its breaking point. The warship hummed to life once more, its engines roaring as it drew the last of Earth's energy reserves into its core. the gravitational weapon charged with an intensity that made the very fabric of space tremble. The crew felt the pressure of the impending shot, knowing that this would be their final attack, the last effort in a battle that had already claimed countless lives. In the distance, the first of the annihilators appeared on the horizon. It was a massive dreadnought-class battleship, its hull gleaming in the light of distant stars. More followed, 4, 5, 6. The full weight of the Empire's wrath was descending on Earth, but the Resistance had no choice. They would stand and fight, or they would be crushed. "Now," Grant said, his voice steady with grim determination, "fire everything." The Pride of Earth unleashed its full power. The blast that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. A searing wave of gravitational energy tore through space, striking the first annihilator with the force of 1,000 suns. The battleship was obliterated in an instant, its defenses no match for the immense power of the weapon. But the wave didn't stop there. It spread outward, cascading across the remaining annihilators, tearing them apart one by one. The shockwave sent ripples through the Imperial fleet, but it didn't stop there. The energy continued to expand, reaching beyond the annihilators, pushing outward into the farthest reaches of space. The Resistance had struck a blow so devastating that the Empire itself was on the verge of collapse. But even as the Empire's greatest warships were annihilated, Varric's final words echoed through his remaining forces. "Do not falter. Humanity will be crushed. We will rebuild the Empire. We will never stop until Earth is no more." Grant stood in silence as the energy of the blast rippled outward, watching the final remnants of the Imperial fleet break apart before them. The war was far from over. The Pride of Earth had bought them time, but they would not rest. The Empire would not fall so easily, and its emperor would never forgive their defiance. But now, humanity had the upper hand. For the first time in the galaxy's history, Earth had proven its worth, not just as a survivor, but as a conqueror. And the fight for freedom was only beginning. The echoes of the final blast reverberated across the void. The Pride of Earth hung in the silence of space, its engines humming softly as it took a momentary breath after the cataclysmic release of energy. Around it, the remnants of the Imperial fleet drifted like lifeless husks, broken and scattered. The Annihilators, the Empire's last hope, were gone, disintegrated in the wake of humanity's greatest weapon. But even in victory, Captain Grant and his crew knew the fight was not truly over. "Status report," Grant said, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Asha Talon, looking over the readings from the control room, gave a low sigh of relief. "The fleet's been decimated, but there's still some Imperial resistance out there. Scattered though, without command and without their elite ships, they're just survivors. If we push, we can finish this." "We will," Grant replied. "But not yet. Let's give Earth a moment." As the chaos of the battle began to fade, Earth's skies slowly returned to calm. Across the planet, cities that had once been bombed into submission by the Empire's forces now stood in eerie quiet. The victory had been hard-won, but it had finally arrived. For the first time in centuries, Earth's people could breathe free air without the looming shadow of the Empire's tyranny. The rebellion had proved that humanity was no longer just a conquered world, it was a force to be reckoned with. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted. From the war-torn streets of New York to the ruins of Paris, people poured into the streets, waving flags, chanting, and dancing. They had won the impossible fight. But even as the fires of triumph burned, a sense of sobering reality settled over the people. "Captain," Ash's voice broke through his reverie, "there's something you need to see." Grant turned to the screen that now displayed an incoming message. It was a transmission encoded with the unmistakable mark of the Imperial royal family. His heart skipped. This was no ordinary communication. The Emperor had not yet spoken, but now it seemed Earth's victory had provoked the final response. "Play it," Grant ordered, his voice grim. The screen flickered and a figure appeared, a tall, imposing man clad in regal armor, his face stern, his eyes filled with a cold fury that could freeze the heart of any soldier. His hair, silver white, flowed like liquid metal, and his dark eyes gleamed with an ominous light. "I am Emperor Kaldros," the figure's voice boomed across the comms. "You believe your victory is complete, human, but you are mistaken. Earth is nothing. Your rebellion is nothing. You dare to challenge the empire of the stars. You dare to stand against the power of generations that have ruled this galaxy. You have struck my fleet, but you have not struck me." Grant clenched his fists, his blood boiling at the sight of the Emperor. Kaldros' words were venom, his presence an embodiment of the Empire's unyielding cruelty. "I will not allow Earth to become a beacon of hope. I will not let you spread your rebellion beyond your tiny world," Kaldros continued. "You are not invincible. I have many more ships, and I will bring them all to bear. If you wish to fight, then we shall fight to the last. But in the end, your species will bow to the will of the Empire. You will submit." The transmission cut abruptly, leaving the room filled with a heavy silence. The weight of the Emperor's threat hung in the air, as palpable as the debris still floating in space. Grant stood still for a moment, processing the message. He knew what it meant. This was not just about victory over a fleet or a single battle. This was a declaration of war, a war that would consume the galaxy unless humanity rose to meet it. The Emperor was not done. Earth's survival had provoked the very force that had enslaved countless worlds, and now Kaldros would stop at nothing to erase humanity's defiance. Ash's voice broke the silence. "What do we do now, Captain?" Grant's eyes hardened. "We fight. This isn't just a war for Earth anymore. This is a war for the future of the galaxy. We've shown the Empire that humanity isn't just a weak, conquered species. We're strong, and we will rise up against any who try to subjugate us." "But the Emperor," Dr. Kavanaugh began, looking unsure. "We don't even know where he is. He could be anywhere, and if he can bring that kind of force down on us—" "We will find him," Grant interrupted, his voice unwavering. "And we will take him down. We've already done the impossible. The Empire thought they could crush us, but they've underestimated humanity. This time, we'll show them what happens when you push a species too far." Asha gave a tight nod, determination flashing in her eyes. "Then we go to war. We unite the galaxy, bring every ally, every freedom fighter who's been oppressed by the Empire, and we take the fight to them. We make them fear Earth," Grant finished, turning toward the view screen and staring into the stars. "We make them regret ever thinking they could break us." The rebellion had struck a decisive blow, but now the real war was just beginning. Humanity had not only fought for its survival, it had earned its place among the stars. And with that, Earth's true legacy would begin, a new era where the oppressed would rise and the Empire would fall.